Vince Neil is best known as the lead vocalist for the band Motley Crue, which he fronted from their 1981 formation until his departure in 1992. He has reunited with the band since then, as they have been on and off again ever since. In 1984, after partying for hours, Neil and Nicholas Razzle Dingley, the drummer for the band Hanoi Rocks, decided to visit a local liquor store in Neil's sports car. Neil, who was completely drunk, lost control of the car and hit an oncoming vehicle. The two occupants of the other car were seriously injured and suffered brain damage, while his friend Dingley was killed. Vince was charged with vehicular manslaughter and driving under the influence in connection with the crash, and in September of 1985, he was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 5 years probation. He was also ordered to pay $2.6 million in restitution to the victims of the crash and undertake 200 hours of community service. Neil ended up serving only 15 days in jail because of good behavior. Brandy Norwood became famous as a singing teenager in the early 1990s with her debut album, Brandy, which went platinum. In 1997, she became the first African American in history to play the role of Cinderella in the TV movie, and she was also in the slasher film I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Her musical breakthrough came with the single The Boy Is Mine, a duet with fellow R&B artist Monica, which became one of the best-selling female duets of all time. But on December 30th, 2006, while driving on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, Brandy struck a Toyota, which killed the driver. Law enforcement officers later reported that she was driving her car at 65 miles per hour and did not notice that vehicles ahead of her had slowed considerably. It was concluded that there was insufficient evidence for a jury to find Brandy guilty of misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter beyond a reasonable doubt, so she was never arrested or charged. Nevertheless, there have been multiple lawsuits filed against her, all of which she has settled out of court. Matthew Broderick is mainly known for his role as Ferris Bueller, but he is also well known for starring roles in War Games, Glory, and The Cable Guy, and he is also a Tony Award-winning Broadway star. But on August 5, 1987, while driving a rented BMW in Northern Ireland, Broderick crossed into the wrong lane and collided head-on with a Volvo. The driver was 28-year-old Anna Gallagher and her mother Margaret, who were both killed instantly. Broderick was vacationing with then-girlfriend Jennifer Grey, whom he had begun dating during the filming of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Broderick told police he had no recollection of the crash and did not know why he had been in the wrong lane. He was charged with causing death by dangerous driving and faced up to 5 years in prison, but was convicted of the lesser charge of careless driving and fined only $175. The victim's family called the verdict a travesty of justice. The victim's brother and son did later forgive Broderick, who intended to meet with him, but has yet to follow through. Mark Wahlberg, formerly known by his stage name Marky Mark, is now a Hollywood powerhouse and leading man, with movies like The Other Guys, Ted, Daddy's Home, and of course 2 Transformer films. He became one of the highest paid actors in the business. When he was 16, though, Wahlberg was charged with assault and attempted murder for 2 separate crimes that he committed on the same day. He left one man unconscious, while his other victim went blind in one eye. He was convicted of assault against 2 Vietnamese men after he had tried to rob them. Wahlberg was charged with attempted murder, pleaded guilty to felony assault, and was sentenced to 2 years in jail, but served only 45 days of his sentence. While serving time, he began working out to pass the time. This was a catalyst for Wahlberg, and he credits his time behind bars as being his motivation to improve his life and leave the life of crime and anger behind him. In the early 1990s, Rebecca Gayheart signed a contract with Noxzema and became a spokesperson for the company. On television, she landed on the hugely popular show Beverly Hills 90210. She made her feature film debut in the comedy Nothing to Lose, and then later had a lead role in the slasher film Urban Legend and the black comedy Jawbreaker. In 2001, while driving a vehicle owned by an Italian actor friend named Marco Leonardi, Gayheart struck 9-year-old Jorge Cruz Jr. as he walked across a street in Los Angeles, and Cruz would die the following day from his injuries. Gayheart initially paid the family $10,000 for Cruz's funeral expenses and was given permission by the family to attend the service, but ultimately chose not to. In November 2001, Gayheart pleaded no contest to vehicular manslaughter and was sentenced to 3 years of probation, a 1-year suspension of her license, a $2,800 fine, and 750 hours of community service. The parents of the boy filed a wrongful death lawsuit, which was eventually settled out of court. Ted Kennedy was a lawyer and politician who served as a U.S. Senator from Massachusetts for almost 47 years, from 1962 until his death in 2009. As a member of one of the most prominent and powerful political families in the world, Kennedy was hosting a party in 1969 when he left with a woman named Mary Jo Kopechne. While driving, he attempted to cross the Dyke Bridge on Martha's Vineyard, which did not have a guardrail, but he lost control and the car went into the water. Kennedy escaped from the overturned vehicle and, by his description, dove below the surface 7 or 8 times, vainly attempting to rescue Kopechne. Ultimately, he swam to shore and left the scene, with Kopechne still trapped inside the vehicle, where she died. He pleaded guilty to a charge of leaving the scene of an accident and later received a 2-month suspended sentence. The incident and its aftermath was a scandal that followed Ted Kennedy for the rest of his life and prevented him from his goal of ever becoming president. Don King is a famous boxing promoter, known for his involvement in several historic boxing matches. King's career highlights include promoting fights for Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, and Evander Holyfield. But King was charged with killing 2 people in 2 separate incidents. In 1954, King shot a man in the back after spotting him trying to rob one of his gambling houses. This incident was ruled a justifiable homicide. In 1967, King was convicted of voluntary manslaughter for stomping one of his employees to death for stealing $600. For this, he served only 3 years and 11 months in prison. He would also later receive a full pardon from the Ohio governor in 1983. Alec Baldwin played both leading and supporting roles in a variety of films like Beetlejuice, Working Girl, The Hunt for Red October, and Glengarry Glen Ross. He also received critical acclaim starring alongside Tina Fey on the NBC sitcom 30 Rock. But in 2021, while filming a new movie called Rust in New Mexico, Baldwin discharged a revolver used as a prop, which ended up being a loaded gun. As he rehearsed a scene, he pulled the trigger, and the gun fired, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. In January 2023, Baldwin was criminally charged by the Santa Fe County, New Mexico District Attorney with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. But a few months later, a newly appointed prosecutor confirmed that charges against Baldwin were being dropped, pending further investigation. So it will be interesting to see how the case against him plays out. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and maybe even consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist, and then visit the channel to search the Recollection Road Library. As always, thank you so much for watching.